Hey gang, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Directions. We've got a really great and exciting episode planned for you all today. But before we get into that, obviously I'm going to let you know who I am. So I am Christian Gaddis. I am the Director of Recruitment Marketing here at 43 North. And as always, I am joined by my friend and colleague,
Carly Ortiz, the Senior Talent Manager at 43 North.
All right, so we're going to dive right into it. I told you we got something special for you all today. We're joined by Katie. Katie works at one of our 43 North portfolio companies, Guidesley. And Katie has a really interesting and exciting story. I'm actually super excited to dive into this.
Same.
But first and foremost, Katie, hi. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
We're super excited. Super excited to share your story. So before we get into that, right, we always start everything by asking our very favorite interview question. So please tell us about yourself.
Sure. I am originally from Austin, Texas. I moved to Buffalo about a year ago. So super new to the space, but already loving it. I actually went to school for sport management originally. So basically nothing to do with product management. But I got the opportunity out of college to work for PGA, some organizations like the Alamo Bowl. And through that network, it really kind of connected me to other industries that I never really thought I was capable of entering. So that was a great networking experience for me and professionally too. I joined a organization in Dallas doing corporate partnerships for about a year, and then COVID happened and I was furloughed and super bummed about that. I was really passionate about working directly with companies and, doing activations and things like that. So in September of 2020, I got a call from one of my Alamo Bowl friends who had just actually gotten pitched by this digital ticketing startup out of Roanoke, Virginia. And I had never really known what a startup was or how they functioned or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to work. So I was excited to meet with them and potentially get involved. They were looking for an account manager that lived in Texas high school football. Big deal, lots of tickets. So they wanted some Texas representation. So I went and did that. And after talking to the founders, I just immediately was, drawn to their mission and what they wanted to do for the ticketing space. So luckily enough, they hired me and I underwent an acquisition with them and a bunch of really cool startup things. They introduced me to the world of product. And yeah, that's kind of how I got involved with startups and learned what they were. And that's a little bit about me professionally, primarily.
And then fast forward, you're in Buffalo.
I'm in Buffalo.
And you're in the startup space in Buffalo.
Yes.
So how did we get here?
Well, we got here because luckily enough, I was stalking you guys on Instagram. I went to a Tech Buffalo event. I went to a Women in Tech event here at Seneca One, and just was so overwhelmed with how much was going on. And I didn't really know where to start. I knew I wanted to dig in and be involved, but I didn't really know how. And so I started, again, Instagram stalking you guys, found out about 43 North Compass. And I think the day that I found the Instagram account, the next day you guys were doing an office hours.
Look at that.
So it was, serendipity, and I ended up here, and now I'm with you guys right now.
Yeah. And you know what? There again, right? So much in there that I'm just my brain's racing on this. But I think that's really what it's all about. That is the exact reason for us to set up office hours, right? We got it. We understood. We've all been there. That job search or that, I want to learn more about this thing can be overwhelming, and there can be information overload at times. And so being able to take a step back and say, hey, just come sit down, have a cup of coffee, and let's talk about what's going on or what you're doing and what's unique to you and some of the opportunities in the area. So super exciting that one, you kind of kept putting yourself out there, and then this office hours event came up and you had a chance to just sit down and have a conversation with no pressure, right? So how much did that kind of help you in terms of just being able to just sit down and get that access?
Yeah. I mean, I think inherently jobs and looking for opportunities can be really clinical. It's very much here's a list of 10 things that you need and we'll pay you X amount of money. And there's not a super prevalent human element. And I think that that's where office hours really stepped in for me. Was I think I had told you even at office hours, I was pretty casual about looking. I wasn't even fully committed to making a move at that point in time. But that human element and bringing it to that authentic place of, this is my story, this is how I'm feeling. And for, I know I primarily talk to Christian at office hours, but for you to be able to step in and say, okay, how can 43 North help get you where you want to go? That really brought it full circle for me of, okay, I can actually envision myself contributing in a real way and not a, hey, there's a PM position open that's been open for X amount of days, just kind of like that job posting fatigue that really comes about a lot, I think, in that process. So for me, that human element was paramount and a huge reason why I even made the decision to make a change, honestly.
Yeah, phenomenal, right? I pride myself, and I think Carly does too, on being a human being. It's something I've worked really hard at. Let's kind of keep going on this story, right? Because this is a journey that I want a lot of people to hear and understand. So you come to office hours, you chat with me, you chat with Carly, right? What happens next? What's the next step in the journey of your trip to Guidesley?
Yeah, a lot of furious Googling was what ensued over the next few hours. Actually, after office hours, it was pretty rapid for me. But I literally just started Googling Guidesley. Christian had mentioned casually offhand that there was an opening that potentially could work, kind of in that product space. So I just started Googling what Guidesley was. I watched the 43 North competition videos, which cannot recommend that enough. It is arguably the best way to learn about the companies in, 2 to 3 minutes. It's super fast. You get to see their pitch deck that they showed at the competition, and it obviously had a really great outcome. So it was a great way to hear, firsthand from, in my case, David, but all of the CEOs and founders that are involved with 43 North. So I listened to those, and then I think I emailed Carly maybe like an hour later and used the phrase, "at the risk of sounding too eager." So I reached out. Carly very graciously, like within 20 minutes, made the connection to Taylor at Guidesley. And then the interview process kind of like kicked off from there for me. And it had a very happy ending. I got an offer from Guidesley, which was really awesome. And I couldn't be more thrilled to be a part of what they're building. But yeah, I mean, all of that literally happened because of that afternoon and in the coffee shop and meeting you guys. And that's where it all began.
Yeah. I mean, and kudos to you, right, for doing your research in that moment.
Yeah.
And also often, right, we tell people, go to our site, go to, our YouTube page, check out all of these videos from finals, because when else are you going to get to hear what a company is about directly from the person starting it?
Right.
Like, what a great opportunity to say, okay, I want to know what they do and who they are, right? The person who literally came up with the idea is going to be the one telling you in this condensed, 2 to 3 minute formatted version. So, kudos to you for doing the research and kind of putting yourself out there in terms of that. Just love to hear that. And that's kind of one of those things we need. Before we go any further, right, I do want to just take a few minutes just for anyone who is watching who maybe doesn't know what Guidesley is or what they do, right? A quick, you don't have to give the 2 minute founder pitch, right? But just kind of a quick kind of Cliff Notes explanation of what Guidesley does and the service you guys provide.
Sure. Yeah. Guidesley is a vertical SaaS platform for all kinds of outdoor recreation guides, primarily in the fishing space, but we're kind of getting into other verticals and, specialties there, which is really exciting. So basically all of the back office stuff that is difficult and challenging to maintain, whether that be, accepting payments, doing reporting, doing online booking, all of that, we kind of get to package up and hand to them. And then they can really focus on the things that they do best, which is creating these incredible experiences for folks doing whatever outdoor recreation, calls their name. And we also have a consumer marketplace as well. So if you want to go fly fishing and you have no idea where to start, that marketplace is a really good way to just visually see all of the guides that are around you or wherever your destination is. So yeah, that's the pitch. I did not do as well as David and Taylor normally do, but
it was pretty good.
I mean, you
that's
kind of nailed it. I'm Like that's great. It took me a couple times of watching that pitch before I could say it as succinctly and as good as that.
Well, I just fall asleep to it every night. So it's just natural now.
Love it.
But yeah.
Yeah. So I want to, pivot a little bit here into, right, what, and I know you mentioned kind of, right, you have getting reached out to from a friend and everything else, and that bringing you kind of into the startup space.
Mm-hmm.
How have you felt like the skills you developed at a startup, right? How do you feel like that has worked out for you?
I mean, joining a startup, you get the opportunity to basically wear any hat you kind of want to, or get the opportunity to wear. Some of them are not things that I ever thought I would do, but they all have made me better in one way, shape, or form. So you get the opportunity to contribute, being really adaptable and okay with the unknown. I think I used the phrase when we were walking over from the office to Carly that I've become really comfortable with chaos now. I think for me, understanding that, order and things, it doesn't always mean that things are running as efficiently as they could, or, all of those things. Everything's going to have like their own nuance. But for me, the startup environment is really what fills my cup, and understanding that it started with like 1 or 2 or 3 people, and they have not only the passion, but the knowledge to actually put it into practice. I can be an ideas guy all day long, but to work alongside people that have that passion and confidence and knowledge to actually say, hey, I'm going to invest my time, resources, family, all those things into building this. Those are just special kind of people. And I love working for people like that. And so knowing that about myself is something that I never would have known had I not been introduced to the startup space, because those people are not always in every industry that you'll come across. So that's been a really good takeaway for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Startup is kind of, right, unique in that, and especially in the position you're in, right, in this stage, being so early, because you're working, again, right, directly with the founder, and with the founding team. And so how has that kind of influenced your career and even your professional growth?
Yeah, I mean, I think, founders are also interesting because they've seen, the good, bad, and the ugly, and they choose the chaos very often, like even when they've been in way different environments. So hearing their stories and what makes them tick, and then they're creating things that basically counteract all of that. It's like a really incredible thing to be a part of, because although everybody's different, everyone has their own working style, you can take pieces of that and understand like, hey, I really love, this type of process, or I actually, don't like that process. I don't want to do it anymore. And having that ability to have that latitude and flexibility has been really great. David sits 8 feet behind me, so being able to hear all of his stories, and, Taylor sits right next to me. So it's literally like this really great environment where they're just sharing all of their stories and experiences and their vision for the future for Guidesley specifically in my case, but just being able to hear that, like I basically get to watch the 43 North competition pitch like every day, but just with like different facets of it.
It's so funny, and it's such kind of an interesting even story for me to hear from your perspective, right, as a fellow transplant, and coming into this Buffalo ecosystem, right? Yeah. And I do want to kind of circle back to kind of the other events that you went to, and just kind of get a feel from you and hear from your perspective, right? In the other places you had worked with startups, was there anything similar? Was there a similar community, or a sense of like camaraderie in terms of other startups in the area that they kind of tried to push forward?
I mean, not for me personally, like it's been a really unique experience coming to Buffalo in a lot of different ways, but I think specifically with 43 North and, just the ecosystem holistically, like taking 43 North out of the equation, this like feeling of, I hate to like use the cliche, like city of good neighbors, but it really has like rung true for me. I think this idea of just like collective success, and that, when my neighbor wins, I win too. And I mean, I can't tell you enough, like going to the Women in Tech event, like it was every interaction that I had was always led with, how can I help? It was never like, what can I get out of this interaction? It's always like, how can I help you get you where you want to go? Mm-hmm. And that's been evergreen across all different types of, events and things that I've done in Buffalo. But I think specifically with startup, there is this sense of like, we're all embarking on this crazy thing. Like, that's a little crazy. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy that we live in Buffalo where it snows a lot and we have to like dig ourselves out of our houses and all those things. There is this like even more elevated sense of community here. And yeah, it's just, I think the thing that's been most unique for me is this constant feeling of what can I give and not like, what can I get out of this LinkedIn connection or what can I get out of, going to this event? There's just a sense of like, hey, I know somebody that can help you. Let me make an introduction.
That's like really rewarding to hear as somebody, unlike the two of you, who was born and raised in this city.
Unlike the two of you, felt a little like accusatory.
Well, I didn't mean it that way because look at how much you're embracing it. But seriously, as somebody who was born and raised here, like I feel like it's just in my blood or in my nature. And that probably sounds like cliche and like everyone from Buffalo says that.
Yeah.
But it is really rewarding to hear people like you say that because like that's what we try to give not only the founders who roll up under the 43 North portfolio, but then also the teams and people that join get to experience what it's like to live, work, and play in this city.
Yep.
And it really is exciting. So it's great to hear from somebody else's perspective that you see it and feel it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely a part of the secret sauce that is Buffalo and 43 North and kind of what we're building.
Yeah.
So, let's say you're talking to someone who sees kind of these women in tech events, sees office hour events, sees all these other community organizations, community events and things where they can come in and connect with folks. What would you say to them in terms of if they're maybe on the fence and not sure about if they should be checking these things out or attending?
I mean, again, to use another cliche, because why not? We're already in it. Yeah. But the hardest part is literally just showing up. I think one of my mental blocks about going to office hours was, well, I don't have a direct outcome that I'm looking for. I'm not necessarily ready to make a move. I'm not, I don't really know anything about the portfolio companies. I don't know what I am really going to get out of this. And I think, to circle back to like thinking about what you can give in that interaction versus what you can get out of it. You don't have to have any expectations or specific outcomes you're looking for. That sense of community and connection is enough. Like just by showing up, that is the whole thing. You don't have to get an email from somebody. You don't have to send someone your resume. Like the outcome can just be the existence and the participation. I think for me, like if I don't come with a set agenda, I feel like I don't belong. So just knowing that you do belong at the table, even if you don't have anything that you brought with you, you're still there, you're at the party. And that's enough, and that you're deserving of that participation in the community, and it's encouraged. So that's what I would say. Showing up is the hardest part. And if you do that, it gets a lot easier after you do it a few times.
Yeah, there's power in showing up, right?
Yeah.
And just being present and saying, hey, I'm here. Let's just see what this is about.
Yeah.
Now what? Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, Katie. So you talked a lot about what it was like you sit right next to Taylor. David's 8 feet behind you. How do you think that can help you moving forward in your career? Like, do you feel like you're not just a number anymore? Like, what does that mean in the startup world?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think, that proximity and relationship really is impactful in a lot of ways. But I think for me, I think sometimes at larger organizations, it was hard for me to remember what I was doing and why I was doing it. So being able to be right next to them, they are incredibly passionate and are always talking about the goal of Guidesley and driving that forward. And so, understanding that is a through line through everything I do, whether that's something as, maybe not as exciting as, writing up a product requirements document or creating a wireframe. It all kind of circles back to, impacting the people that are on the Guidesley platform and directly impacting their families and putting food on the table and things that are actually like really meaningful and important. All of these small businesses, individuals that are around, the globe now are dependent on our product and that innovation and moving that forward. So I think, that's just a small, example of where I'm currently at, but like long term, I think it helps me understand kind of that division of what is important to me, professionally and personally, and the opportunity to marry those does not come very often. I think for startups, it often comes a lot because they are all started in a very mission-driven place. So knowing that that's important to me helps me be much more discerning moving forward of this is something that I want to spend, 40 plus, definitely plus hours a week working on. And that is worth my time and my investment and my resources as a human. So for me, that's been important. And it's something that, Taylor and David talk all the time about investing in the people at Guidesley. Not only like the people using the product, but the people working on the product on the other side of the table. So they are always pushing for opportunities for growth. I literally went to an event at UB for AI last week, and
Nice.
Just always looking for that professional growth opportunity. And, they're always asking the question of, how can we help you do X, right? And that's not exclusive to the current, position or initiative I'm working on. So yeah, that's what I would say about David and Taylor.
I love it.
Yeah. And that's so cool. And also thank you for mentioning, right, the 40 plus.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the thing too. And we always want to make sure that we're being, truthful and representing the startup world and startup jobs and opportunities as they are. Like, yes, there's a lot of great upside to it in terms of, right, working directly with founders and having this potential for growth and gaining a lot of experience, right? But it's a job. You're going to work. You're going to work a lot. You're going to work hard. But I think the thing is you also get this great trade-off and this opportunity to work on something that you're passionate about or to work for a mission that you truly believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what makes it easier to say, I'm okay with the plus in this case,
Yeah.
because like I see where it's going. I see what it's driving.
Yeah.
So, again, thank you for that accurate representation and understanding of that.
Yeah, it's not said with, any scary undertones. It's definitely worth it. And it's, for me, again, from like a fulfillment standpoint as a person, being able to see, direct impact is really important to me. Like putting in all of this effort and then potentially seeing like some uptick down the line that may or may not be attributed to something I had a small piece in, that's tough for me professionally to get satisfaction out of. So the startup space really offers that opportunity to not only directly work on things, but then directly see the outcomes and the insights. And maybe something worked, maybe something didn't, but you have that flexibility and ability to move quickly and either pivot or dig into whatever that thing was. That's something that is difficult to do in larger organizations in my experience. So that plus, again, it does exist, but it's a lot of fun and you just drink a lot of coffee and it's all good, all good.
Yeah. So, okay. I think we're gonna wrap up here. I know we already had you give advice to someone kind of just looking to attend an event or kind of putting themselves out there. Now we're gonna have you kind of speak to someone who's maybe on the fence about, joining a startup, checking out this ecosystem, or just, curious about getting involved, right? What would you say to that person who maybe is considering the startup life?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, I think, sometimes startups can have this like really strange barrier of entry of if you don't know, if you don't have a highly technical background, you don't have a place. And that's just further from the truth. Everybody needs somebody for something. So whether you're, really artistic and passionate about that, if you're passionate about, HR, it takes a lot of people to get in this boat. So I would say, don't count yourself out before you even, look at it. Startups are really accessible, especially through 43 North Compass. But there is a role for everybody and it takes a lot of pieces and a lot of different skill sets and passions to make something successful. It's not exclusive to product. It's not exclusive to having a highly technical background. And so I would just say, like, don't count yourself out of the ecosystem before you even know what makes makes up the ecosystem itself.
Yeah, that excellent advice.
I was going to say, perfectly said.
Myself. Yeah, totally. Well, Katie, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank
we
you
appreciate
guys.
it. We look forward to just seeing what the future holds for both you and for Guidesley. So we wish you the best of luck. We'll see you around the office, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And to everyone else watching, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you on the next episode of Directions.